Hello, friends. It's 8 o'clock. Ride's done right. I'm Larry, and he's Alan.
Howdy, everybody.
Well, howdy. I like your howdy because it gives me a chance to do my howdy back.
That's the old hee-haw days right there.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm sitting over here watching. It is live. We are live, folks. I just saw it in my own browser, so we're live. We have a viewer. Things are going good tonight. We have questions and answers is turned on, so you'll be able to ask us questions as we go. And as promised, tonight we are doing custom paint, and we have a full agenda. We got a full 1 hour show. We're going to be profiling a bunch of different rigs. Mostly, let's see, we got all motorcycles and two vehicles. So two cars, one a Blazer, which I didn't run in the commercial, but in the trailer. But we'll get to see that. By the way, that's the first I've seen of that. I'm looking forward to seeing that. That'll be cool. So, all right. Well, gang, what do you think? Are you excited about custom paint night, Alan?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, custom paint that makes or breaks a vehicle or a bike right there. I mean, you got your run-of-the-mill factory stuff, and then you got the custom stuff, and that's what makes them pop.
I agree with that. I think what we're going to show here is a lot of experience with this kind of stuff. So, those of you guys that have been out at the site, you've already seen my bike picture gallery out there. Shows a lot of bikes. What you're going to see in what I'm putting up at first are, all the vehicles that I've had. We're going to do the car that my brother did at the Portland Roadster Show, won Best in Show at Portland's Portland Roadster Show, Best in Show 2014. That was actually Best in Class, Best Paint, Best Display. So pretty big deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the old pictorials here, and we will jump into it. That was my first parlay into the 1000 cc's. That's a Honda CB1000, and I didn't like that color. What do you think of that color of orange there, Alan?
Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever seen that color other than that one right there. That's definitely a unique color.
Yeah, that guy really loved that color. He said he got it off of like a BMW or something, and I don't know. It was. I think he should have kept it on the BMW, but it wasn't doing it for me. So I painted the bike up, painted her white, and I had a Camaro at the time and matched it up, and that's how it turned out. Nothing fancy in that paint scheme. It was just going from the orange to the white, and I think white looked a lot better on it. It was cooler. This was my Triumph Sprint 955. The thing that was custom here in custom paint, and you could barely see it, is that rear cowl and behind the seat. And you can't really tell from this angle either, but they did a great job in color matching it. I gave up my left testicle to get that paint job for that little bitty piece, but it turned out all right.
Did they charge you a bunch to do that little piece?
They charged for that one piece and that cowl. I want to say it was like $325 or something.
Holy schmoly!
I know. I could have gone to Mako for like $99, and they'd have painted my whole bike. They'd have got the tires too, is the problem. But So the reason I'm even showing this one is that I just want to show a little bit of irony. If you look at the picture, actually pretty close. Now this is a race body, and then the stock gas tank. And I took that race body, and I wanted to go put a color, try and color match it, but I wasn't going to go pay a whole bunch of money and then risk, having my bike fall over or something, get scratched up, and then I toss all that money. So if you look at this red here, and then look at the red on the tank and the fender, it matches pretty close. That paint job, that paint color, cost me 99 cents at Lowe's, and then a 99-cent can of clear and a 99-cent can of white and a 99-cent can of black. So I bought 4 cans, black, white, and red, and then clear. Went home, taped it off, shot it, put my decals on, and it didn't turn out half bad. So who says you can't get a paint job for $5?
Yeah, that's awesome. And being the race bike, you're going to be on the track. No, you're only going to be seen from the tail end anyway, and zipping by. So from a distance, that looks great.
Yeah, it worked for me. So now this was the other bike that I bought. So what I had is I went out and I bought that bike. Was going to go do track days with it. Saw an ad on Craigslist. This was a 2001. And I wound up buying this as a 2007, as you see it there, sans the red fender. I put that red fender on, and a couple of other parts. But this bike I paid $900 for. Had 6,000 miles on it on an R1, an '07 R1 for $900.
Nice.
Not a bad deal. So here I got the fly-by-wire technology. The bike, other than the cosmetics that it had going, which it had a lot of issues, took some doing, but a little bit of money into it. This is what it turned out like before I got it. Obviously wheels and tired and ready to go. But this was the day before putting it all together for it, and turned out good. I'm not going to show the aftermath of this week. We saw that photo last week, and don't need to bring that up again. So I'm going to get into everything really from here. For me, is around these 3 guys, because these are the 3 painters that I use on a regular basis. The guy on the left is Big Daddy Newsom. That's Brian Newsom out of Salem. These guys are all out of Salem, Oregon. And Brian does, he's done pinstriping forever. I've had him do pinstriping on cars and stuff through the years for a long, long time. Didn't know until I saw him a while back that he did also custom airbrush and could do stuff like that for me. So the first bike I'm going to show is the result of what he did for me. The second guy, the guy in the middle, is Kerry Elwood, who has Elwood Airbrush, and he's a graphic artist that he paints murals and kind of that true fire like you see in his graphic there. But he does murals for like ocean liners, and he'll do them for like people's inside bars or whatever, whatever somebody's got big. And he's done everything from buses to custom cars to whatever. So, and he's an artist by trade. That is what this guy does for a living, and he is really good. And then the guy in the bottom right there is Todd Hollis. And if I'm doing any kind of anything, if anybody gives me a scratch or a ding or a dent and I need any kind of paint work done at all, it's Todd. And Todd does everything from that kind of minor repetitious kind of thing to prepping show cars, top winning show cars, all the way from nothing to something special. And you'll see some of that as we get going here as well. But those are the 3 guys that I use and vouch for their work for sure. So here is the first FZ1 that I went out and got, a Raven, and I went and had got a hold of Brian, and I wanted this cage stripe work put on it, just because you guys know I like to do my stuff custom and different. So I had him do this cage design and pinstriping, and then you can't really see it here, but the FZ is done in silver flake, and then the 1 is done in gold flake, and so that's how that turned out.
Nice.
Then my brother has a VTX. I'm over at his car lot for something, checking something out, and I see that thing sitting out there, and I thought, boy, I ought to go ride that thing. It just looks like it's begging to be ridden. And so I ride it out to my garage, and I got it home, and I liked the ride so much I called him up and said, I think I'm going to keep it. So I did, but there were a couple of things about it I didn't like. One of them was I'm not really an orange guy, so I wanted to change that around. I knew I wanted to get rid of these fenders here, and initially I just thought, well, I'll just get a hacksaw and just hack that back end off, and that led to looking around and finding some other things, and this is kind of step 1 of that process. I went out and got a rear fender out of Florida, and I used my Dremel and got it all dremeled down around the back end there, and had to completely modify my seat to make it actually sit down and work with that fender. That took a long time. But anyway, you see the starting process there was a white rear fender. I found a different front fender that I liked off of a different model that was off of a VTX model. And so I put that on the front. And then I went into Photoshop and started Photoshopping to see some different base patterns that I was going to do. So the first thing I did is I put this white overlay on it to get an idea of white. And then I filled it in black to get an idea, kind of played around with some red. And you can see where I did my foray into the ghost flame, which is eventually this is what I wound up doing. So I put this together, and then I went and saw Brian and said, hey, let's do something like this photo. I know I'm going to want to do a flame down the front as well to match it. And there he is in the paint shop, and there's the gas tank sitting there in the front fender. There's the pieces all together. That's a pretty cool feeling when you go over to the painter's place and you lift up the old door and you see your stuff all sitting on sands and you're going, ah, man, it won't be long now.
That's pretty cool.
So what you see in the paint here is we went with a light silver kind of metallic, a really light metallic, and then he ghosted in a darker gray in all the areas in the fronts, and then down in through the tails. And then after he did that, I believe he clear coated it first, and then he went back and did the gray pinstriping around the outside of it to highlight it. And this was all Brian Newsom, so start to finish, he took that orange, and that's how it turned out. I thought the front fender turned out kind of cool too. I hadn't seen anybody do this kind of a style. I liked, this whole thing I wanted to do with the black and the white stripe around the outside of it. Hadn't seen it anywhere. Just drew it up and thought it would look cool. So
yeah, that guy definitely has some talent.
So there's these angles here kind of show the before and after pretty good.
You got the grandpa bike and then the not grandpa bike.
Yep.
Nice.
And obviously this let me put that big beefy wheel and tire. This is my first shot into a 240 rear tire. So I bought a conversion for it and put that 240 rear tire on it. It sat high. I mean, it's still, the back fender is up off like a motocross guy. So from that standpoint, I would have liked it sitting lower, but that's just how the setup that I had did. I would have had to change some shocks, some other things to kind of do differently with it. And for what I was doing with that bike, that was about as far as I was going to take it.
Yeah,
now,
that would have left the ride in good shape, and
yeah, Now what I want to do here quickly is I'm going to pop out and just see if we have any questions. I'm taking a look, and no questions, so I'm going to pop back in and we'll continue on. I'm going to do that in between a couple of the bike things just to see. So if we've got anybody who's wanting to ask questions, you can ask them while we're going, and then after I'm done with each thing that I'm talking about, I'll check and see if there's any questions, and then we'll go ahead and do it to it, prove it. Let's get back to where was I at here. The next bike. So this is just finishing up that bike. I kind of like that angle.
Yeah, that's a cool picture right there. That's nice.
Okay, so I had that thing sitting in the garage, and around the time I'm finishing that up, my brother buys this body and says, I'm going to go make a show car out of this thing. So it's a Willys Streetrod, and that's what it looked like started. And I believe the next picture is about 2 years later. So that's a lot of going back and forth between different people who do different things to get it to this point where it's sitting at Todd Hollis's shop in his paint booth, and then Kerry comes over And Don calls me up from Arizona and says, "Hey, I'm in Arizona, and they're painting. Kerry's over there painting flames today, and I need you to be my eyeballs. Can you go over there and stand behind him and just make sure that it's it's do it until it looks right." And it's like, oh man, that's putting a little bit of pressure on because I don't know exactly what he's going for. So I just thought, well, Kerry will just do it, and I'm just going to be there watching. And what turned out to be getting to sit there the whole time and watch him do it. And it was neat because he would put on the layers and the highlights and different things, and he'd ask me while I was there, "What do you think about this? Should we go a little brighter here, go a little darker there?" So we were sitting there talking about the whole thing as he was doing it, and went through the whole process. I enjoyed that so much, and the way he did it, that it made me think, man, I got to figure out how to do a cooler project next time on my bike. So it really, this whole experience watching him paint is what got me to want to do, something on my own project. That's how it turned out. This was really the first day out of the trailer at Don's house, sitting there, and holy smokes, not bad.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just incredible.
This interior shot gives you a bit of the close up too to see the pinstriping too. So this was using all three of the guys that we mentioned there. So Todd did all the base, so all the body that you see, the dash and coming down the console and everything. That's all him. And then Kerry had taped out and did the flames on the inside. And then Brian came in after those guys were done clear coating, and then he put the pinstripes on around it. And just to me, it was just the right touch of everything, putting those three guys together.
Yeah,
I
what a
wish I,
team.
I wish I'd have had a better shot of this higher on the hood. You would have been able to see how the flames kind of came down to that point, and then had the pinstripe that he did in the front. This was meant to be a grill shot and not a pinstripe or a paint shot. So, and as much looking as I did, I could not find that. I don't know if you saw any of the pictures of the display. Had you seen them before this, Alan?
No, that is way cool. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, so in this picture, you can kind of see a couple of the things here. What he did is he had fenders built by a place out in Portland that's a friend of Don's and ours, and the guy does amazing work. And they did these to match the flow of the fenders on the Willys. So he basically had, as you can see, on each corner, and then one in the middle. So he had 9 of these, I think, made. And each of them had lights. So if you look where my mouse is right here, you see the headlight in it.
Oh
Each one of
yeah.
them had a built-in headlight that shined onto the car. And then the
Way
rails went through everything. And then I don't know what you say about that monitor, other than that was just, to me, that was like the centerpiece of the whole thing. It was so cool.
Yeah, and then what did the monitor have? Was it just showing pictures of the whole car like after it was done, or did
No,
it
it
show
had
before?
the entire build, Alan.
Wow.
Yeah, so we did a video. I did a video for him, and we were taking pictures the whole time, and it was like a half an hour long video, and that's on the Willys website. So anybody who's interested in any of these things, I have links to all of these off of Rides Done Right, and if you look for the Willys website, you'll see that, and you can go in and see there's videos there and the photo album for it there. But yeah, it had from the first photo that you saw here earlier all the way through to the build. And boy, setting the monitor up, and then some of the things you don't notice in the display until you look at them close. Watch the mouse again here. You see where the stand is here. He
Hmm.
didn't get like everything had to be handmade. So those were made to do the same kind of radius turns that all the other chrome pieces were. And what you don't see is the Willys emblem that's all over the car, and the interior, the trunk, all the emblems on the car. He had Willys emblems built into the stands and chromed as well, so that when the stands are on the car, everything matches perfectly.
Wow.
The carpet finished out, and you can see it has the nice edge trim all the way around it. And we measured the whole thing out and in the space, and then this next one shows the winning result. I mean, that thing looks so weak.
Oh yeah.
So right behind this display, sitting at the table right behind in the tent, was George Barris. So those people that know that name, he's the guy who did the Batmobile and a bunch of other really significant car builds. And he was sitting there. He had to look at this turd box the whole time he was up there. So Don had a pretty prime spot in the show. It was really in the center of the whole what was going on in the show. So as I said before, it won best display, best use of colors and paint, and then it won best street rod.
Nice. So is
So
that he uses that as a daily driver? I'm assuming.
it is, yeah. This is just how he gets back and forth to work. He saves his cool stuff for the real big events. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I would think so. That's yeah.
Yeah, that car is going nowhere but to a show and back. He has crates and things that he puts all the display goes into display crates and things, so nothing touches each other, nothing gets scratched or anything. Boy, I want to say there was 25 bones in that display is what that display cost.
Yeah, I have no doubt. Yeah. Yep. So he must.
Yowzer.
Well, I know he has a enclosed car hauler, but does he get that and then all this stuff too, or does he haul everything separate? Or
I believe he took them all up in one long one. I think the first show they went to, his other trailer, they found would not work, and he had to take two trailers to the first show he went to. But I
oh,
believe this show, the first show, was just a practice to set up the display, and it was in Salem's like Roadster show or something like that. And then he
mm,
went from that show to Portland, but it won a big Northwest show too. One of the good guys shows, and it won best in show, put it in the Hall of Fame the first time out. So
wow.
it was a pretty big deal.
Oh yeah.
And that's just sitting in front of his house. The same guy who designed the car designed the house. So you know, I don't know. The house is kind of a turd too, huh? Anybody who's seen the video of the car, the most recent video of the car, it shows it coming out of the carriage garage and then pulling in front of the house. Don's selling this car, so anybody who just happens to pop in on us and knows somebody who's looking to buy a car, he is selling it as a show package. So he's selling it with the display, with everything. That person will basically get it. And Don had bought it to show, take it on a show circuit. He went through and did his first couple of big shows, won them, and then said, I'm busier than I thought I was going to be. He's out there doing something, well, to pay for all that stuff. So he's a busy guy. And he just says, hey, somebody can buy it as it is, show it in Southern California, the whole East Coast, take it on a circuit. And this car would stand tall at any show anywhere it goes.
Oh
For the
yeah.
measly price of, I mean, consider the idea that if you're thinking about getting a second home, you don't really need a second home. Just get this and have something cool for your one home you got. So,
There you go. Yep.
like that. So the Willys site has all
Yeah.
the details on that too.
Yep. Just add a extra bay on the garage and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Or an extra bay. Yeah.
So we're checking back in to see, and here we are again. We're 23 minutes in, and we got no questions. Nobody out there giving us any questions? Come on, people. It's Friday night. What are you doing? Are you like hanging out at the club or something? I don't know, man. Jump on and join us and toss us a bone.
Yeah. So, but the good news is that we definitely have the questions and answers are working. So if somebody was wanting to ask, they definitely could.
That is a great point. They do work. We tried them out on Wednesday. We had fun playing around for an hour. Uh, I actually kept the video. I just hid it from public. So in case you went out there looking for it, I kept it up until last night, just so I could see different parts and see how things went. And it looked like it was fine. We'll see. Again, people still have to get online. Then when they get on during the live show, then they have to know to go up to the window and look for the grid and click on the little grid. If they click on the grid, it'll ask, do you want to ask any questions? And then that's how you do it in the live show. So that'll take some getting used to. I wouldn't have known unless doing this. I wouldn't have known that feature was available. So it's going to take our viewers getting used to the idea that you got to show up live to watch to be able to ask the question. So.
Yep.
All right, so we'll switch back here again, and so I had the VTX first, and then I saw that all the cool stuff that he was doing to that car, saw the painting and stuff, and said, man, I want to get into that action. When I had seen a Harley Rocker the first time, I thought they were really cool. I thought it would be neat to do one someday. So I sold my car that I had in the garage and dropped all the money into that. So I sold that VTX, I sold my Corvette, and then dumped all the money into this guy. And step one was to do this. I went into Photoshop and I took this exact photo that you're seeing, which is why you see the water in the background and stuff. And then I went out and I copied and pasted the wheels and tires, and then kind of redrew some stuff and designed all my fenders and my tanks in individual areas. And then I came in and then I pasted them in here and put them on the bike to get an idea of what it was I was going after. So the nice part about doing something like that is when you go to a painter, it makes it a whole lot easier for those guys because they can just look at what you got and you can say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Same with the body work. I mean, we had to work through. If you look at the fenders here, I hated this front fender. I just thought it looked real dorky on it.
Yep.
And so one of the things was to get I wanted the style that I wanted. I bought a complete half, cut it in half, and then that's how I built the scoop that I wound up doing. So, and I wanted it real short, like you see right here. I kept it really high on the tire. I was going to go with no front fender at all. And then I thought, oh, I'll put a little one up there and then just give it a little something.
Yeah, got to have a little something there for show.
Yep.
Yep.
So this, I wound up going longer on it than what my original design was. I left it a little bit longer, and it's because I put the thing on there, and when I was looking at it with the bike where it was, I thought I'd just leave it a little longer. So that's what it looked like on it. This was the back, and it had problems presenting all over the place. This is what happens if you just hack one off at an angle, and I thought, well, that is okay. It's better than stock where it comes way down.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple of things I didn't like. It was high, like my other one on my VTX, and I thought I got to figure out how to get this fender down lower. And then I wanted to have that kind of scoop effect in the back as well. So I wound up buying 2 fenders and putting them together, and I cut it to the size I wanted and then welded the top off. And then we took this little mount points here where it mounts to the bike, and we redid where it is on the swing arm, and that dropped the butt down. And we put that thing on where all you could do is get like a credit card between the tire and the fender.
Oh,
and when I say credit card, it was like there was no room. If I had an air expansion, where the tire expanded a little, it would have potentially rubbed.
Wow.
So I was a little worried about that, but I put 5,000 miles on that bike afterwards and didn't have any issues.
Man, I didn't realize you rode it that much.
Yeah, I put some miles on this thing when I got it.
Wow.
Actually, I say 5,000. No, I guess I put like 2,500 or something like that. But you can see the difference there too. I mean, so this is what I found when I was out looking around, and you see how it looked, and I thought, man, I got to jazz that up. And I think this looked more like a razor blade cutting kind of deal there. So you can see how I wasn't kidding when that fender, and that's the tire where it goes in there, and you don't see any room in there.
Yeah, there's no daylight.
Nope. And then this was just the other end of it, welded onto it, and then the gap, and then we had a light that was running in there to do the whole back end. So, and this was what the stock tank looked like. This was my rendering. That basically the idea was to do what looked like a true flame underneath, and then the old classic one over the top with the highlights on the top and then the low light drop shadow. So this was really the thing that, I mean, we could have sat here and gone and gone and gone to deepen it up, but this is the thing that basically we said, this is what we're going to go after.
That's awesome.
So this was after he had shot the black top, so it had to have a black half of it. So the bottom half of the bike was red and the top half was black, and the front and back fenders were black. So he shot the first part in black, and then he did the regular painting of the, you know, the true looking flames. And once he got those done, that was like the second day, I think, that maybe it was the third day the flames on the tank were done. And I got to sit over there and watch him do that part of it. And then it was time to tape out the flames, and he got a call from a buddy, had to go somewhere, and he said, hey, you know what you want, you drew the picture, here's some tape, just tape the flames out, and that way when I get back we'll be closer to it. So he was gone for 4 hours, which is a long time, and that's obviously plenty of time to kind of go through and tweak and get the general layout. So it made me feel even more attached to the project, because I wasn't just, you know, eyeballing it and saying put more white here and put more dark here. I was actually getting to lay out the pattern on this thing that, by the way, I hadn't seen anybody do this. This wasn't something I saw in a magazine where somebody ghosted classic flames over true flames. It was just something I thought would look kind of cool and interesting and different. So, and the other part was, you know, you put flames on a bike and put flames on anything, and you're gonna kind of start getting real gaudy, in my opinion. And I was really stepping out, taking a chance doing flames in the first place, because I was worried, man, you know, it's going to be a lot of flames on a bike. You know, how's it going to look? But the more I did in Photoshop, the more I thought, you know, it would turn out all right.
Definitely unique, and I've never been a real huge flames guy, but these are done so nice. Yeah, definitely love these flames.
That was a cool. I like that we got a close up of this part of it too. Is that, you know, he has this tape that you lay down, and it that this whole big section here was just taped, and then he went out after that was taped onto the other, and then he just trimmed it all out all the way around it. So the whole thing was taped out. That he gets his airbrush out and starts going at it.
Wow.
A different angle, the same thing. One of the things that's pretty cool, it just shows how versatile this guy is. Look at this chest behind in the background here. I mean, it's got these cool looking, like, you know, animal tusks on it, and it opens up into like a bar, a little mini bar that you have.
Oh,
So it
wow.
sits there as a treasure chest. I wish I'd have got a full picture. Kerry's got them on his website. By the way, I'm going to put links to all three of these guys' websites so you can go out and look at the stuff they've done. Brian's got some great stuff on his artwork out there. Kerry's got stuff that he's done, a ton of stuff that he's done. And so does Todd, has examples of the other show cars he's done. But anyway, that chest, I think he sells those for, he said, somewhere around $15,000.
Wow.
And I mean, they are when you saw them in real life, they are unbelievable works of art. This guy has talent coming out his wazoo. I mean, man.
Wow.
I used wazoo last week too, didn't I? I should say he has talent up the yin yang. Is that better than out the wazoo?
There you go. I like Wazoo better.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, yin yang's kind of a different thing. So that's kind of, this is an interesting phase of it, is that you pull the stuff back and then you see that. Then what he did is he came in afterwards, and what you don't see here, but that we did afterwards, is all these areas here where you had this fine line is from where he removed the tape. Then he came in with his airbrush, and he went with an airbrushed shadow that shadowed the whole part here, so it looked like the flame then was casting a shadow on the flames underneath it. He did that all around the whole areas here. All the areas had that drop, so he did that around the whole thing. And then when it was done, it looked not much different than that. And then it went back over to Todd Hollis for the clear coat, and then that's how it turned out.
Yeah. Bam. That's off the scale. It's just off the scale.
it's weird that it can go. I mean, that's the same paint, just it goes from that. And when you're looking at it, you're going, well, yeah, that looks pretty cool. In my little pea brain, I'm going, man, it seemed like it was glossier looking than that. But I didn't realize he still, yeah, this is just part of the process. Put the clear coat on and everything will jump. And Kerry is sitting there, he's seeing all these colors. I mean, things that you barely can see in here is tangerines, and there's just all kinds of colors making all that action happen in there.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that ever before. It's just incredible the way that pops out and gives the 3D effect is just incredible. Just incredible. I mean, it's no wonder that, you won, the shows that you did with that bike. It's just incredible.
Yeah, I gotta say, as much as anything, the paint is certainly what wound up winning the shows that this bike won. It won two best in shows, and it had good paint competition. Where it was at. I mean, different dudes. It was especially I remember the first one that it showed up at. It seemed like everybody that made the finals, that won their classes, they all had flames, and there were some cool looking flames. Nobody had obviously had a classic on that. Nobody had anything like this, but
Mhm.
they had flames that looked cool. If you like flames, they had cool looking flames. So, I was looking at it going, man, who knows? It could be kind of anybody's ball game here because, there were some good looking bikes with some really nice flame paint jobs on them. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, way cool. Yeah, I know we've talked about this before, but I'm not big. I'm not a big Harley guy. But when I first saw this bike and you showed it to me and sat on it and stuff, and I was like, it's funny because when I was over in Bend, the Harley shop over there, um, they had two rockers sitting there and they were both blue. And I was like, if I was ever to get a Harley, it would be a rocker. So when you said you had one, I was like, man, that's pretty cool. And the two they had one blue with the black accents, it had the black wheels and that kind of darkened out. And then the other one was the same blue, but within the chrome, it had all the chrome accents. And I was like, man, which one would I get if I was gonna get one? Because I like the blue, but it would have been a hard choice to go with the black or the chrome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, you told me that, and it was like, I always like it when guys that we're growing up together, we have similar tastes, and it's like, well, yeah, that's what I'd have done too. I mean, of all the Harleys, it was just weird. I was never like out looking at Harleys. I just happened to see a guy in a parking lot with a rocker, and it just, I thought, man, there's a Harley. It looks kind of cool. So this shot here is where it goes in between that final clear coat. I want to say it's called inner clear is what he said. So he throws this first coat over it, and then he goes back in for the final where he does all the final coat of clear, and then he goes and does all of his wet sanding and stuff. But it's just part of the process. But this actually is the really only place you see the fenders exposed, because when it's on the bike, the frame's in front of the front fender, so you don't really get to see. It was cool because we put the flames up under the scoop so that they came out of the scoop and went down like that, and then these came up from the back all the way out, so you didn't even see any of this part here unless you were standing there looking at the bike looking down. But
Cool.
and then
Yeah.
the same with the console. I was gonna have him do some kind of a cool artistic thing on the console, and as we got going with it, I thought it would look too cluttered if I went away from anything else. So I just said, let's do flames just like everywhere else. And I wish the glare wasn't on that photo because the console looked really cool in the photo. But there's the finished result.
And did you have that seat made as well, or is that
This was a factory Danny Gray seat.
okay?
The one that I'll show, I think I've got a photo coming up that shows this was the first year. So the first year I did this and did that show. And then the second year in the winter around now, I was in the garage and we did all the like Christmas tree lights. We did a really cool light stuff on it. Lux Lighting came out. We did 7 full days in the garage putting lights on that thing. Had them shooting down the front of the fender, the bottom, the engine, everywhere you could have lights under the belt guard, the everywhere. That thing had lights all over it. And then I had the Danny Gray made me a custom bobber seat to go with all that. So that picture's coming up here pretty quick. That's it, as a matter of fact, right there.
Nice, yeah, and I love those wheels. Those that wheel design goes perfect with that bike.
Yeah, thanks. I really liked that too. That was one of the funnest things, I did with the bike was, and we already know this about, wheels and tires make any vehicle. You put the right wheels and tires on a car or a bike, and it's going to look really cool. And yeah, that they turned out pretty good. It was fun searching for them. I wound up getting PM wheels out of California, and I went through every design. Like I said, I did it in Photoshop, so I cut the wheels out and then pasted them on. And I had an idea before I was doing anything with it, what it was going to look like. That was the good part about that whole Photoshop process was I put the wheels in there, and if you go back and you look at the first photo and then compare it to the finished product on the bike, it turned out really close to what it ended up.
Nice. And I mean, you rode that bike. I mean, it wasn't just a trailer queen. So
Yeah,
I'm
it was.
surprised. I mean, that paint held up. Everything just was great, and you used it. That's the best part. You got to enjoy it both ways.
Yeah, that was funny because people kind of gave me a hard time about it. I was like, you're riding your bike, or that's a trailer queen or something. It's like it's not a trailer. I do ride it. Guys that know me well know that I didn't ride it a lot. I mean, it definitely sat most of the time. And especially the last year I had it, the bike the bike just sat. But it was because I was getting into other projects, and that's kind of where we're going next. Is that bike was pretty cool. I was having a lot of fun with it and thought it was kind of it until this bike. And
I know when
now
you.
the weird part is we're talking about custom paint. Well, so what do you do for custom paint when you go out and you buy this big buck Ducati Diavel? And I got the upgraded version that has carbon fiber. Well, I'm not going to paint carbon fiber and paint the whole bike white and black or whatever, or red or something. I bought it for the carbon version, so uh, I was kind of limited to what I was going to do to it.
Yeah, you can't, and that's a bike you don't overdo.
No, so I went out and I bought, this is a Ducati Performance Hugger in carbon fiber. I bought this, and then I had the red stripes, had Todd Hollis paint the red stripes on them. And then when I did my bags, I had my bags, the strips on them back there painted, and he color matched them as well. So then the final product was that, and that's when I'm running bags. Anybody who's seen photos of the bike know that generally I don't have bags on the bike or anything, but this is when, if I'm going to go out and go ride somewhere for a long ways and I'm going to store stuff, open up the old hard bags. And those bags are pretty cool, by the way. You can put a full-size 2X, if you had one, helmet in it, and it'll shut.
Wow, they don't look that big looking at them.
Yeah, they don't look like they would handle that kind of that much storage. But yeah, that was pretty cool. I love that part of it. That, and they're not I like that they're not like squared, and they're not round. They had really cool look. I mean, it looks like somebody went in like they did with the Ducati, like they went in and they sculpted the design on the bags, and the way they tuck in around the seat area. If you watch my mouse here, the way it goes in through that area, they're angled in there. Just the design, just, well, obviously these this setup was made to and built to work on that bike perfectly. You buy the kit and it attaches like that. And anyway, I don't want to get go too far astray here on the colors, or I mean on the bags. Look at this is one of the things I think really says what Todd can do. is color matching. If it's not if it's not the right red on the Ducati, that's going to look like crap. But it is spot on. That bike looks like you could have ordered it with those bags and driven out the Ducati showroom just like it's sitting right there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So let's take another gander back and see we got any questions. Here we are looking again. Hello, friends. We're out here. We're live. We're broadcasting on YouTube. And we're letting you do questions, but nobody's on here doing it. So, got anything to say about that, Alan?
Put it out there. Build it, and they will come. I don't know.
There you go.
Yeah, it'll take some time for people to catch up to us, I think.
Well, we are bleeding edge, so with emphasis maybe on bleeding right now. But okay, so we're through that now.
Okay, now you gotta show picture 1 first. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. We'll get past that, and I think I might have had it on the end, but there we go. So what is that, and how did this whole thing come about here? Did you get a smoking deal?
Oh, of course. Yeah, you're talking about your $900 you paid for that R1. I paid $900 for that Blazer, which that looks about like a $900 rig right there. And
I think you did pretty good at $900 though.
Yeah. I mean, it ran, it drove. What it was is the store I was running at the time, my meat manager had this. It was sitting out underneath his fir tree for like 2 years. And his wife was pregnant with twins, and they already had 2 or 3 kids. I think 3. So that was going to put them up to 5. And she said, get that thing out of here. So get it out of our yard. So it was kind of a yard ornament at that point. And my buddies, I had a few buddies that were building play trucks. And I'm like, man, so I got to get a play truck to go play with my buddies. So I'm like, $900, and I don't know. He was wanting like 1,500 or something. And yeah, I'm like, I'll give you 9, or I don't know. I don't even know how we got it down to that price, but his wife said, get it out of here. And I threw cash in his face and he took it. So anyway, so from there, I'm like, okay, so I was going to start working on the running gear. Ordered a crate motor, had the transmission rebuilt, basically replaced every nut and bolt. Everything was either rebuilt, replaced, brand new, everything on it, underneath, inside out. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go stick this in the mud, play in the hills with my buddies. So I need to have it, to where it's not going to break down. I'm not going to break anything. I'm not going to get stranded. So that was my number one thing. I put dual batteries in it, onboard air. And then I'm like, I like driving this thing. So now I'm going to try to make it pretty. And I kind of went overboard. Can you guess the color of that, Larry? I don't think I told you what color I painted that.
Well, I'm guessing looking at it that it's yellow. And
can you guess what shade of yellow I painted that?
So I mean lemon yellow, banana yellow. I think it's more lemon yellow than banana, isn't it? I mean it's like a brighter lemon. I mean a brighter yellow.
Yeah. So I got a hold of my parts guy, Mike's Auto Parts in Bend. For all the folks over in Bend,
kind of like Yamaha yellow is what it looks like.
Mike is the parts guy over in Bend. He owns Mike's Auto Parts. Great, super guy. Became a good friend because I was in there buying parts from him every other day, or every day most of the time, or a couple times a day. Over the course of 10 or so years it took me to build this. But anyway, I had that painted. I went to Rob Maya, Bend Body Shop. He's a great guy. He was recommended by Mike, so that's where I went and talked to him about it. If you, from the first picture you saw, it looked like it was primer, which it was kind of, but it was mostly rust. Everything on that was rusty. You can't really tell, but where all the Chevy trucks rust, right in front of the wheel, where the wheels and tires are, and the
right
fenders
here,
right above, and up on top. That's all rusted through, all right there and down behind, down the backside, all that rust. So what we did is he actually had a 77 Blazer, which the 73 and 74, and I think maybe 70, no, not 75, 74, were this body style with the full top off. And when I went looking for a Blazer, I was going to get a full top off, period. So it was either going to be late 60s, early 70s to do that. So anyway, I couldn't pass up the price on this one, so I got it. And so anyway, what he did, we had to pitch every bit of metal on this. The only thing that was kept was the frame and the firewall and the dash. It was okay. And he put a 77 tub on it, which is a half cab, not a full from the windshield back top. And he cut it down because they're identical. And he cut it down, the half cab off from the windshield and above the behind the door and where the two front seats are, and cut it down. As you can see there, that's a 77 tub.
Wow.
A lot of body work,
man.
So, and when I got it, it had a hard top and this white soft top. Well, after I did that, I'm like, that white soft top looks crappy. So I went and bought a brand new, and there was nothing wrong with it other than it was just white, and I didn't like it. So I went and bought a brand new black one, and I put it on, which I don't have a picture of. And I kept the black wheels, and I put 35 Swampers on it. So I had that for wheeling and sticking in the mud, and wintertime driving usually is what I had those for on the steel wheels. So when you're four-wheeling, you don't want aluminum wheels necessarily, because aluminum, if you hit a rock or something, it'll bust, whereas a steel wheel will bend and you can still get out of there, you know, on a bent wheel. But if you bust an aluminum wheel, then you're kind of screwed.
Wow, I never thought about that.
Yep. And I went with 15s on purpose all the way around, because for wheeling you want rubber, you don't want big wheels, so you want rubber on the ground. So I had 15-inch wheels on the steel black wheels for the Swampers. Then I went with 15-inch, as you'll see
so
in the picture coming up.
So you did all of that, and then you went out and drove it in the mud.
Stuck it in the mud. Yep. Took the Mud Fest several years in a row. Actually got, if you go on the Mud Fest, the Mountain of Mud, I was trying to think of what year. I think it was 05. If you go and look that up, if you look through all the photos, you'll see the Blazer with the hard top going up the mountain of mud there. So I don't know, there's like 3 or 4 pictures of it in there at Mudfest, slopping around out, climbing the mud up the hill and around into the holes a little bit and stuff.
That's cool.
But yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I built it for. I had it locked front and rear, onboard air, everything. I had the transfer case rebuilt, re-geared front and back, had them locked, put lockers in it.
BF Goodrich TAs, man, I remember those. Those were the tires.
Yep. 35 1250s. So I had those on. That's what I ran in the summer, and then come fall, I'd throw the black wheels with the Swampers on it. And so
now wait a second. I noticed something here.
That's finished product right there.
Last week we're talking decals. You had the decal on here. It says, what's it say? The Beast. So I'm going, hey, all right, the Beast. I'm going to see the window decal. And then here you peeled it off. It's like, I don't think that works anymore.
No, it didn't work anymore.
Part of what we were talking about last week, remember, it was decals get old, then you got to start peeling them away.
Yeah. So anyway, so the picture back, that was, I was over visiting my folks one time, the picture you just had before this one. So that's finished product right there. I, of course, had brand new bucket seats, kind of the race style seats that enclosed you. So when you went wheeling, when you just sank down in it real nice. I had a back seat in it that laid down and folded clear up front. So you actually had a full bed in the back. And that was actually out of 77. because the one that came in this one was like the old ones that were permanent, just a solid frame to where it didn't fold or out of the way. It was just bolted down and it was there, took up the whole back. I'm like, well, I haul and carry stuff around, just stuff, And of course, I had the big stereo in it, 12 sub in the back, and amps and all that. So you heard me coming. But anyway, so when I sold it to these nice folks, which I was actually living over here when I sold it. And these folks just happened to be from Bend. And they'd never seen the rig before, but he was looking for something to have his wife drive the kids around town in during the summer with the top off. So all my lockers and the winch I had on the front and all that, he took all that stuff off and goes, I need to take out your center console and put in a car seat there. And I'm like, man, okay, well, he's got the money, so he can do what he wants with it. And super great, nice folks. But as you can see, it's full of family and dog. And
I think it's pretty cool that it got to live 2 different lives, though. That's pretty neat.
So now it's basically a garage queen, and it comes out in the summertime and drives the family around town. That's all it does. It never sees mud. It never sees rain. They never put a top on it.
So that thing is going to look.
What's that?
That thing's going to look that good though later. That's what's cool.
Yeah. And so what? Anyway, yeah. Back to the paint. So I went to Rob May, and I think, and I was like, I'm not sure what color. I think maybe a bright yellow, like a nice canary yellow. And he's like, brings out his book and said, no, you pick it. He said, I'm not doing it. I've been through this before. You got to pick the color, and that's what we're going with, because, if it's the wrong, I pick it and it's the wrong shade and you don't like it, not playing that, you pick the color. So I got to looking, and I picked 2002 Dodge Viper yellow.
Nice. Yeah, it looks. I don't ever remember seeing a Blazer. Obviously, now you'd say that color. I don't ever remember seeing one that color, and that is a good color on that rig. Most people that go out and they go to show events, they know that one of the keys to standing out in a show is you want a bright color. Everybody always looks to those bright colors, and if you're standing there with a whole sea of Blazers, that thing would have been standing out big time.
Oh yeah, it did. And actually, I had it in. There was a car show over in Bend, and somebody talked me into putting it in. And of course, I didn't win anything or anything, but it was just kind of there with all the other stuff for people to look at. But I mean, I had my high lift jack mounted on the back, and my extra jerry can back there, and my full 5-inch spare on the back. I had to build myself. I cut and welded up some square tubing. And actually, I looked at the back of a Jeep, and they had the aftermarket worn, like spare tire carrier, oversized spare tire carrier. And I'm like, man, I need to get me one of those. And then I thought, heck with that, I'll just make me one. So I got out my welder and my cutoff wheel and chop saw, and went to town and made one that was almost exactly like that, only it was just one that I made instead of a store-bought one.
Right on, man. I didn't know you were Mr. Mechanic Man either. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I did all that myself. The only thing I didn't do was the rebuild, the engine, the tranny, transfer case. Buddy and I did the rear ends, put the lockers in, front and rear. I did everything basically myself, or with a buddy's, helping me, just because I needed, some help doing stuff. So, but yeah, it was me over the course of about 10 years to get that finished product.
And it turned out great.
Yeah. And so, and I'm like, okay, I put all this money. Of course, I had over, probably 20 grand in the thing. And so then I'm like, well, man, if somebody T-bones me, I'm going to get probably $1,500 from the insurance company. So I went down to the insurance company and said, hey, what can we do here? He said, well, bring your receipts, show me what you got into it, and we'll see what we can do. And he sent out an appraiser, and they actually appraised it for $11,870. So I thought, that's over half of what I got into it, so that's better than $1,500. So that was the price we went with. So
yeah, that is always the trick. when you go to building your stuff up, that's we could probably close with the paint conversation by making sure everybody knows. You put that kind of money in your vehicle, talk to your insurance agent and make sure they're aware of it. Document all your stuff up and then go to someone and get an appraisal done. My brother actually does appraisals for high-end vehicles in the area, and that's always a good idea to do that. So I'm going to transition here since we've got 1 minute left. This is what's coming next week, California vlogging, and we've got a guy down there that rides around on the streets of California in his Ducati Diavel, and he'll be joining us next week. So we'll have 3 people. We will have someone else to talk to besides just me and Alan. That'll be fun. And we'll see how all that goes. We have a lot of questions for him. We're going to be looking at pictures and hearing about his adventures. And he's had some close calls and things happening while he's been doing it. So it's going to be a fun show. Stay tuned for us next week and join us and ask us questions if you can. Rides Done Right. I am Larry, and he's Alan, and he's saying,
Ride it like you stole it.
all righty.
See you next time.
Good evening, friends.